Let me start this presentation with few everyday occurrences all of us are familiar with. A couple enters a restaurant for dinner. The waiter hands over the menu card, rather a bulky file, to the man. It has 20 varieties of dosas, a South Indian delicacy, 10 types of rice preparations listed in the menu card. He gets thoroughly confused and hands over the menu file to his wife. Sounds familiar? Second example, you intend to buy a car and you go to the showroom. Well, there are petrol cars, diesel cars, electric cars, hybrid cars, CNG cars. You are at your wits' end about what to choose. A third example, a prospective bride searches the matrimonial site for a suitable groom. Well, there are thousands in all shapes and sizes. They are listed. Randomly and sadly, often wrongly, someone is selected, and soon after the marriage, the divorce proceedings are initiated. Looks like modern times offers us plenty of choices, a kind of choice overload, if you will, and we seem to get suffocated and end up without any selection or most likely making a wrong choice. Let me give another example. Various apps want you to accept their terms of service and would like you to read and scroll through the copious information. Most of us just click to agree without reading them, right or wrong. One reason behind this tendency is the fact that most of the websites and services overload us with information and we become overwhelmed, if you will, and make often a rash decision without taking time to consider the details and the nuances of our decision. Well, in an era of infinite choices, the paradox of choice often leaves us overwhelmed and dissatisfied, particularly in matters of the heart and decision making. Let me elaborate on this, on how modern freedom and abundance of options may be impacting our happiness and relationships. One of the central tenets of modern societies is freedom. This freedom is often associated with choice, with the belief that greater choice is equated to greater freedom. This logic is easy to follow. Instead of being forced to choose between one or two different options, people have the freedom to choose between an almost unlimited number of options. Business and corporations often also follow this ideology, believing that more choices will lead to greater customer utility. When you go to a mall and look for any item to buy, I'm sure you will see several brands of the same product neatly arranged to entice your mind and in the process leaving you thoroughly confused. Interesting thing to note here is having this unparalleled plethora of choice, if you will, in the modern world is actually causing people to be less happy and more frustrated with their decisions. Instead of increasing decision satisfaction, having too many options makes people less likely to be satisfied that they had made the best decision. While freedom is important, there is a fine line between having the freedom to choose what you want and being paralyzed in the face of too many options. As someone has wisely observed, unconstrained freedom leads to cognitive paralysis. As we make social, scientific, and technological advances, we find ourselves with more options than were available to previous generations. As said earlier, the choice of what food to order in a restaurant is but one of the examples of the ways in which we have become privy to an abundance of choices. While on the surface, the profusion of options might seem like it should increase customer satisfaction, since people are more likely to find one option that fits their particular wants and needs, we can also become very overwhelmed. While it is easy to choose option A, if there is only an option B, it becomes much harder to gauge the value and utility of A when there are options from A to Z. As a result, we encounter a kind of choice overload, if you will, and become more dissatisfied with the choice that we eventually make. The paradox of choice is not only a concern for economics and consumer satisfaction, but an issue that is popping up in various areas of our life as our possibilities come nearer and nearer to being endless. Moreover, the internet and the social media has made it easier for us to see all the different options that are available to us, no longer having to physically stand in a store to determine what our options are. Fast paced advances being made in technology and science also mean that there seem to be new kinds of jobs created on the daily, not to mention all the different social media applications that has created a whole host of jobs. um, Case in point, influencers, social media specialists, so on. Social media has also changed the way we choose a life partner, and this is interesting. In India, we have several apps, at least 10 to 15 apps like matrimony.com, secondshadi.com, bharatmatrimony.com, so on and so forth, have enabled people to have dozens of options of who to date at their fingertips. The paradox of choice carries the most consequence for people whom I prefer to call as perfectionists. Perfectionists are concerned with making the best, mark the word, the best choice, instead of simply making a choice that they are happy with. When there are many options available to them, it becomes harder for them to determine which is the best, which can cause them to feel a great deal of regret after they have made a choice. Additionally, when there are more options, opportunity costs are greater and can leave people with more regret. Let me take you back to the early 50s and 60s. How the alliances were fixed. I'm sure all of you will agree. In all likelihood, in those days, our parents had to rely on meeting people in person who were most likely to be recommended by relatives or close acquaintances. And how did we check their credentials? By word of mouth. Do you know this boy? How good is he? Where is he employed? Is it a temporary job or a permanent job? And we gauged the personality, and the marriages were conducted. As stated earlier, these days, plethora of apps have changed the game. We no longer have to rely on meeting someone that runs in the same circles as we do. The app allows us to swipe through potential matches that we may never have crossed paths with, who are essentially complete strangers. At first thought, this seems great, wonderful, as we now have access to all these people around the world who we never would have been able to conventionally or and conveniently meet. However, with so many possibilities for a partner right at your fingertips, so too enters the paradox of choice. How do you pick one person to date when there are so many other options out there that might be better and more suited to be your partner, life partner? This might mean that you may make rash decisions since you don't have enough time to look through all the options, or you might be careless with your decisions and swipe right on everyone. As a result of the paradox of choice, people also seem to less likely to commit or spend the necessary quality time getting to know someone, since they can just get the right back they can just get right back on the app. One user in an article has written, and I quote, "The seemingly infinite supply of options allowed me to care less, to distance myself, to treat people like items in an online shopping cart. As a result, I found myself deeply unhappy with all of it." The statistics on divorce of couple who met online through such portals is staggering. Estimates by divorce lawyers that nearly half of marital breakups involve partners who met online via these apps. As per one lawyer who specializes in divorce cases, in his own words, and I quote, "About 7 cases out of every 10 that I handle are of marriages arranged through matrimonial websites. These moves come in the wake of estimates by divorce lawyers that nearly half of marital breakups involve partners who met online." To mitigate choice overload in our daily lives, we can adopt few strategic approaches. First, setting clear priorities helps narrow down options based on what truly matters to us, and this is important. Creating routine and habits for routine decisions like meal planning or workout schedules can reduce the mental load of daily choices. Limiting the amount of information we consume and trusting our initial instincts can also help streamline decision making. Additionally, utilizing tools like checklists or apps to manage tasks and decisions can provide structure and simplicity. By implementing these strategies, we can reduce the stress and overwhelm that comes with it with too many choices, which will lead hopefully to more efficient and satisfied decision making. Thank you.